Welcome, Abhinav, to the podcast. How did they get there? Do you mind quickly introducing yourself to our listeners?
I do. I hate that question. I, well, I'm Abhinav. I am extremely intimidated by your podcast, especially because of its title.
Yeah.
Because there's this huge pressure to justify to myself that I've actually reached somewhere worthwhile to be having this conversation. But yeah, very excited. Looking forward.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what you do currently.
What I do currently is basically, I feel like now the question has become, what were you doing pre-COVID and what are you doing now?
Yeah, both are fine.
What I was doing pre-COVID was basically running two businesses. One, a social innovation lab. The other, quintessential hardcore manufacturing business supplying to the automotive industry. What's happened in the past 3.5, 4 months is that the manufacturing business is sort of getting back to track now, as the core sectors of the economy are opening up, things like that. The innovation lab is sort of in a limbo right now, and to be honest, I'm quite enjoying that because it's giving me. I think the best part about this time was that I didn't have an option to not question what we were doing.
Yeah.
You get that? So there was no excuse to not question, right? There was nothing happening.
Yeah.
And, in our heads, all of our solutions are fantastic. So you get to this point where you have to figure out were things actually working or not working? I mean, were we looking at vanity metrics or actual metrics? I think that's been a very difficult but good conversation to have with myself. So, to cut a long answer short, running a manufacturing business and a social innovation lab.
And one question that I've asked all my interviewees up to now is, do you love what you do?
I found that, you were very kind to share the questionnaire. I saw that question and it split my head. Because I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And, Nishant, I feel like love has become this overused term nowadays. You love everything from coffee to soft toy to the work you do and everything beyond and between. And I think the best way to put how I feel about my work is that I feel fulfilled by my work. And I think every day is basically, the search for something more fulfilling to be able to do. So, a lot of the conversations that we have, a lot of the random ideas that we discuss is basically, I think, this idea of exploration and all of that. But for me personally, is a way of feeling more fulfilled by the work that I'm doing. So that's how I feel.
No, I think that's absolutely amazing. And you've worked in social entrepreneurship. You were leading your own manufacturing company. So there are very different domains, right? And it's not that you are just doing one. At many times you're doing multiple things as well. So what's led you into these domains? Considering you studied in UK. As well, and you were going to do masters, but actually you stepped out of that. So you've gone through an exploration journey.
Yeah. So well, this, the manufacturing thing sort of happened by accident.
Yeah.
Right. So that was something that just, in a sense, fell from the sky, and it was a situation where I think. Retrospectively, I could have said no, but at the time it didn't feel like that was an option. And getting into a little bit of a background, there was this company, it was being run by some people. My family got involved as minority shareholders, realized the company was being, rammed into whatever hard place they could find. and the company was wanting for new leadership and new management, and somehow people thought that I could be that person, and I have no clue why. I still don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, however it happened, it's turned out to be interesting to do that. Social entrepreneurship, on the other hand, was, I feel like I don't think I can outline a clear chain of events that led me there. But I think that that was something that was brewing inside for some time, right? So right from college days. And so that more took its time, and this manufacturing stuff was like accidental and explosive. Just randomly fell into the lap and had to be done.
But it's an opportunity that you've taken on and you have delivered on as well, which is
we've done pretty well. I mean, I feel very proud of my team and what we've been able to do. Quite simply because, I mean, you've been on the receiving end of the, heartache and the tears and the virtual blood flowing out of my eyes. But yeah, I'm quite proud of what this team has been able to achieve.
Great. So, you've had a very diverse career path, because you look at, I looked at your LinkedIn profile, and it shows you've acted, right, during your college days, going from there to act, doing that, doing engineering, social entrepreneurships. You started your own company, Culture Collab, and then MPME there as well. What has been the driving factor for you personally to keep going?
So firstly, let me tell you, so you say that like I actually did any of that well. You were attaching this aspect of glamour to everything that I did, which I don't think is true. But I think, to answer your question, I think the primary motivation here was to not be bored. In all honesty, I think I became aware of the kind of privilege that I come from pretty early on. I guess it must have been very similar for you, because we left school, left the bubble of Jamshedpur, headed off, and reached this place where na jaan na pehchan, main tera mehman, sort of situation. And you had to fend for yourself, and apni auqat samajh mein aa jati hai. So I think, and I mean, that sort of, you get juxtaposed between your life back home and then your life here in this new place, in this new country. And so that made it very clear to me what kind of privilege I come from. And I think at some point I convinced myself that the only way to pay back for this privilege is to not do boring shit. Like, not having spent a year that I can't look back and say, oh my God, that makes a good story. Right. So, and I think that was the primary motivation through everything. And all of the other stuff is like marketing shit. Passion and calling and all of that. But I think it was primarily wanting to not be bored, and then, I mean, looking for stuff where I could contribute, and looking for stuff where I felt like, the problem statement excited me. And all of that.
But, that is very interesting, because not a lot of people have the courage to try that out as well, because a lot of people want to just follow a path. And especially, from college onward, it's very easy that coming from where we are, right, we get told that this is the path that everybody's following, and that's where we need to go to. But especially when we look at, you might think that you have not achieved a lot, but from an outsider's perspective, it's it's something that everybody can learn from as well. So across different roles that you've been and the initiatives that you've taken, what did you have to do and what you continue to do to learn and adapt to meet the demands?
Yeah, I think there's a good argument for skills and adaptability as a skill, and being open to new ideas and stuff like that. But I think one of the things that has helped me is picking up problem statements that challenge me. I think even with MPME, it being a manufacturing company and a small enterprise, and had truckloads of shit to deal with, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, but I think at every point it was important for me, with respect to myself as well as the entire team,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to define a problem statement that challenged us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just today over LinkedIn, you know, I was having a chat with someone who was talking about how do you inspire people, and they had some fancy quote and all of
Yeah.
that on it. And I don't know shit about inspiring people,
Yeah.
but I know that I have a core team of 8. I have an employee base of over 60 people
Mm-hmm.
that need to be managed, and we're all, you know, heading towards one goal. But I feel like for people to want to do more, including myself, for me to want to do more, I should be looking at a problem statement that challenges me,
Mm-hmm.
and keeps me on my toes, and, you know, doesn't let me cower in my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was key, because I mean, when we came to the company 2.5 years back, we realized very quickly we were in a market that was highly saturated.
Mm-hmm.
We were working with a product that had very low differentiation.
Mm-hmm.
The market was extremely price sensitive, as most, you know, products are in India, or the market in India is for most products. And we were competing with companies who'd been around for decades.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would have been easy for us to sort of look at these players and think, कि अच्छा ऐसे ही होता है, you know, because, well, ये लोग 20 साल से कर रहे हैं, हम कौन से तोप पैदा हुए हैं, that we'll do it something, you know, we'll do it in a different way. But I think for us to define that problem statement and say, nahin, matlab we can't go that way, because we don't want to become that.
Yeah.
We want to be someone else.
Yeah.
You know, or we want to chart a journey similar to theirs, except we want to do it in 2.5 years instead of 30 years that they've taken. So then, you know, that's a problem statement that you can't shy away from. You know, you can't come back home and chill about it. You have to be on your toes. So I think that was key.
Great. And one more question I'll ask you in this round is, you know, you've were working in a startup, and you worked in other companies. And obviously the culture there is very different, right? And the culture that you're trying to set up there was very of innovation. And then you step into a traditional industry like manufacturing. How did you, or basically, how have you managed to, you know, bring some of those learnings to your current role?
With a lot of pain. I think it wasn't a question of whether those, you know, that culture and that feeling of being part of a young company that's growing, and you know, the kind of things that you take granted for granted in a startup. It wasn't a question that those things needed to be here, but like you said, it was a very traditional manufacturing company. 90% of the workers that we were working with were, you know, had existed before we got involved in the company. So not only was it about bringing or developing a new culture, but also molding these people from the old culture to the new culture. I don't know if there's an easy answer to this, but it took a lot of effort. It took a lot of time.
Yeah,
it took a lot of patience. But I think at the end of the day, it was a lot of it had to do with me being okay with things not happening as quickly as I wanted them. And I think because I felt like, you know, why wouldn't you want to work in a culture that makes you feel more passionate about the work? You know, why wouldn't you want to do things that way? And for the longest time, I used to bang my head against the wall thinking, look, kyun nahi samajh rahe? You know, why aren't they doing it this way? But I just realized that people need to be shown a better way of working, and people need to be given the time to experience it for themselves, right? And people need to be shown that this is a choice for you, right? Maybe your way is better, but can we try this out? And if you like it, we continue whichever way you like. And luckily, I mean, over time, people just moved.
Great. No, I think that's the great experience that, I'm sure that other people can learn from trying to do similar stuff. So, moving to the second section of interview, is there a book that you've most given as a gift, or 1 to 3 books that have most inspired you?
The book I've most gifted to people is The Little Prince, that you got a copy recently of. It is my most favorite book in the world. So, and I gift it to everyone I care about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's, you don't need to read anything else. Just read The Little Prince and you're set for life.
Right. Now, is there a failure or an apparent failure that has set you up for later success, or a favorite failure of yours?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this question, and I was actually listing down so many failures I've had over the past few years, and it's quite a few, way more than any successes for sure. But the interesting thing was that the year 2017 was like the entire year was a failure for me.
Okay.
And I think I learned a lot from that year. And I think the biggest thing I learned from that year is that surviving is a success. Right. So, and I think that got me through the toughest times of this last assignment, MPME, because, I mean, on most days, it was a fight for survival.
Yeah.
Right. And I just knew that if we could survive, we would have succeeded. And I learned that through 2017, which was rock bottom for me. I mean, I had the worst possible breakup, and, I left an organization that I had given my heart to, and, left all disillusioned and disappointed, moved closer to home, was working at a company I did not feel connected with. It was shit. That entire year was shit. But just having survived that gave me a lot of confidence. So, yeah.
Great. Do you have an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
Yeah, this is gonna sound really dark, and I don't think I would have ever said this if it wasn't you.
Yeah.
But I have this fascination for graveyards.
Okay.
I find a way to. This is gonna sound so wrong. I find a way to get to a graveyard wherever I am. And just, I don't know, I have this thing about letting it settle into me.
Okay.
Just the I have no idea why. I think it has something to do with the fact that I would like to be very aware of my mortality.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I seek it out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a very weird sort of morose fascination. So I don't generally talk about it.
Cool.
I think that counts as absurd.
Yeah. You've been in the startup space and you've been in the manufacturing industry. Is there a stereotype that you hear or a bad advice that you see given in your profession, in your domain, or something that you've just seen, going through different roles?
Yeah, so many. So many stereotypes, so much advice flying around. And because I'm working in two sort of very separate domains, I see a lot of parallels. I'll see a lot of overlaps. I see a lot of extremes also. Yeah, Nishant, I feel like stereotypes are a way for unimaginative people to put down imaginative people. People who are willing to question. People who are willing to step out of the line. People who are willing to make a fool of themselves. These people are very threatening to incumbents in the system. And I think those incumbents use those stereotypes to put these people down. And that's something that I've seen across the spectrum, across my work experience. And it's sad. I mean, I wish it wasn't true. I mean, something as simple as age here. if I go to the startup world, I'm too old. If I'm in the manufacturing world, I'm too young. I mean, what?
Exactly. And you get busy days. I mean, you spend working weekends, working on these different opportunities. What do you do when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused to bring back that focus?
Yeah, so I've struggled with this a lot, but uh, what I actually do is I disappear,
Okay.
and I think yeah, this shouldn't come as a surprise to you.
Yeah.
I So earlier I used to feel a lot of guilt for
Yeah.
doing that,
Yeah.
for disappearing.
Yeah.
But what I realized was, for good or bad,
Mhm.
I had come into this sort of rhythm of um, intense involvement,
Yeah.
intense engagement, and then complete withdrawal.
Yeah.
And I realized that when I started accepting this withdrawal as something that I needed and something I
Yeah.
was okay with, um, my friends accepted it,
Yeah.
and were okay with the fact and understood that, okay,
Yeah.
chal bhai, tu pagal hai, teko samay chahiye, tu le le. So when that happened, I started being more comfortable with this
Yeah.
entire idea, and it really helps me. It
Mhm.
really helps me to take a week or two off,
Mhm.
uh, disappear from all digital connectivity and social
Yeah.
media and all of that, however little I'm on. Um, but and that sort of, I think something or the other during that time pushes me back into
Yeah.
focus.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
Is there anything specific you do when you disappear?
Yeah, I just go with the flow.
Okay.
Um, and so the most interesting thing happened when the lockdown was declared in India.
Yeah.
Um, and I was so a few days after the lockdown when it actually sank in that, okay, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
Um, I was sitting and thinking about how the universe had played a weird trick on me, because earlier for me to take time off, I had to battle a lot of excuses.
Yeah.
You know, okay, so if I take time off, what happens to the production problems?
Yeah.
What happens to the sales problems?
Yeah.
What happens to the maintenance issue we're facing? What happens to the market situation?
Mhm.
And suddenly, I was in this situation where none of that could matter.
Mhm.
The factory was shut. There was no way to run it. So
Yeah.
there was no production problem, no sales problem, no maintenance problem. Whatever you thought, you couldn't have done anything about it.
Yeah.
And I think that is when I was able to teach myself how um, to let my mind flow with whatever it wanted. And taking a few days off, and then somehow, interestingly, what that led to is me reading more about finance and economics. And then by the end of it, the thing that pulled me back into focus was I started writing a white paper on finance and economics.
Mhm.
So, and then sort of, that sort of got me back into work.
Okay.
So I guess just whatever works at that time.
Yeah. Great. Um, knowing what you know today, if you had an opportunity to instruct your younger self something, what would that be?
Do everything exactly the way you did it, just
Uh-huh.
with a little bit more courage.
Okay.
I feel like there were some decisions I should have taken earlier,
Mhm.
because I knew, it was the right decision to take, but I was scared shitless.
Mhm.
So it took me longer, but
And in the current times of COVID, we've got students who are graduating now, and people who are getting laid off globally, and they are looking to either pivot careers, pivot industries, or upskill themselves as well. What would be your advice if they were looking to get into, the domains that you are familiar with? Firstly, to the graduates, and then to somebody who's looking to pivot career. And
Yeah, the situation is so weird and uncertain right now that
Yeah.
I really don't know what kind of advice would work. Um, and I don't want to presume that I'm in a position to be able to give advice, but I do know that one thing that has worked for me is that I listen to everyone and follow no one.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know how, there are two extremes of advice that we
Yeah.
usually get. One is, go find your mentor, and, your coach.
Yeah.
And on the other end is listen, you know, forget about advice and
Yeah.
don't listen to anyone, do what your heart says and all of that. What I've come to realize is that I listen to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm able to pick and choose what I think works for the particular situation that I'm in,
Yeah.
and I run with it.
Yeah.
So listening to people is extremely important for
Mm-hmm.
me, because there's a lot that I've learned, which I've sort of written in the book also.
Yeah.
There's a lot that I've learned from just talking to people
Mm-hmm.
and having conversations, and which is why I have this huge passion for having, intellectually stimulating conversations. Um, but the important thing is that none of that advice has come with boundary conditions
Mm-hmm.
that this advice needs to be followed exactly according to these parameters
Yeah.
in this situation, right? So yeah, just, I mean, listen to as many people as you can, but don't think that anyone has a path that you can follow
Mm-hmm.
step by step.
Yeah.
You got to build your own thing.
Right. I think that's some real useful advice, Abhinav, as well. I'm sure the listeners are gonna, take that on. So, we've discussed about what your journey has been like, and some of your views and stuff. And you've discussed about how you got up to here, right? Where do you want to get to from here?
Yeah, so honestly, Nishant, I want to get to a place where I'm able to build solutions at population scale.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that I crave to do, and I know that I don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know my own limitation. I know my own failure at being able to do that. And I really want to get to that place.
Great. No, I think that is interesting. That's something that I've been pursuing quite a lot. To If I have an idea, how can I quickly make it real,
Yeah.
instead of just thinking about it? And I've personally been working on frameworks that allow me to actually make that happen, as well. So it is getting there, but it's still very slowly.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Scale is a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
Just, um, and I think so. So I read this fantastic book
Yeah.
called Scale by Jeffrey West.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's interesting because it's not about scaling. There's the Reid Hoffman book, Blitz
Yeah.
Scaling. It's not that aspect.
Yeah.
It's about what happens at various scales,
Yeah.
is what Jeffrey West is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And from a very scientific perspective, not
Yeah.
from an entrepreneurial or management perspective.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating because there are so few solutions in the world that actually operate at population scale.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I have this new respect for any solution that has been scaled to that
Mm-hmm.
point. So it's fascinating. It's insanely complicated.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth exploring, which is why I get very excited about a lot of the technologies and solutions that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they can definitely work at scale.
Mm-hmm. So no, I think it's been great speaking to you, and listening to you as well. Before we end, do you want to share any last thoughts?
No, I mean, no, I'm really happy that we did this, and I was honestly very surprised when you sent me the invitation, because as I said, the title is so bloody intimidating. But I'm glad we did this. It was fun.
No, I think it's been great speaking to you, Abhinav. I'm sure the listeners are going to enjoy this.
Hey listeners, hope you enjoyed the episode. Would love to hear your feedback in the comments section, and if you enjoyed it, please subscribe.